recovered by the Chargers. Touchdown, UCLA.
With USC great and NFL stud, Frostee Rucker.
The Trojans back in front.
And LAFB founder Ryan Dyrud on the Believe Podcast Network and LAFBnetwork.com. This is your destination for Los Angeles football.
Los Angeles, what's going on? What is good? Happy 6th of July. Hope everyone had a fantastic 4th of July. Hopefully it was safe but fun after last year being able to do nothing. Hopefully you're able to watch fireworks, grill, spend time with friends and family, drink a lot of hopefully Brewery X beer. I know they had some specials going on. So I know I had my fair share of whether it was Slap and Tickle or something like that. Hopefully you went down to Brewery X and picked some up. If not, get it now. Anytime's a good time for Brewery X. But hope you guys had a great 4th. It's my favorite Christmas is my favorite holiday. The 4th is my second favorite holiday. It's just, good friends, good weather. Usually go to the beach or, backyard somewhere, barbecuing, eating great food, and watch fireworks at the end. I mean, it's fantastic. So hopefully everyone was safe. Hope you had a good one. But thank you now for tuning in. This is the LA Football Podcast, as always, on the LA Football Network, LAFBnetwork.com. Also on the Believe Podcast Network. We are everywhere you get your podcasts. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher, Amazon now. We're on Amazon Music. Everywhere you listen, we are. And we're on YouTube. Make sure to subscribe to our channel. Not make sure. Please head to YouTube, type in LAFB Network, subscribe to the channel there. All of our podcasts, the LA Football Podcast, plus all of our other ones, Rams Brothers, Chargers Unleashed, Compas on the Beat. They're all on the channel. Plus, we do video breakdowns and have a lot more planned for when the season begins. So LAFB Network on YouTube. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. Today's episode of the LA Football Podcast brought to you by betonline.ag. Did anyone bet on the hot dog eating contest? Curious. Drop a comment if you did. I believe it was 73 hot dogs or 76 that he finished. But if you bet that number, probably had a pretty substantial winning. But obviously that's passed. So now you can bet on NBA Finals, NHL Finals, which could be wrapping up soon. So maybe see if the Lightning close out in Game 4. I still got baseball. But what I'm doing is I'm betting just futures for the NFL and college football. You can, predict the Super Bowl winner, division winners, play some prop bets throughout the season. So head to betonline.ag today. Whether you're on mobile or desktop, you're going to get a 50% welcome bonus if you haven't signed up yet. Crazy if you haven't, if you've been listening to the show for a long time, but head there now. Get a 50% welcome bonus. That's betonline.ag. All right, excited about today's show. Going to be more geared towards Rams fans, as I'm going to be joined by the great Jake Ellenbogen. Does the Downtown Rams podcast, founder of downtownrams.com, and he does the Jake Ellenbogen channel on YouTube. So we're just going to kick it, talk some Rams football, talk upcoming training camp, which is just a mere 2-3 weeks away. Crazy. Football is almost back. Once training camp starts, football's back. There's really only a month where there's no football because you figure the season ends and then you have free agency period coming up. So there's all the talks about what's going to happen in free agency. You have a little lull there, a couple weeks where really nothing can happen. It's all just speculation. Then free agency hits. Then it's truly the draft season. I know for some people, draft season starts in December if your team's out of the playoffs. But then it's truly draft season. Then the draft happens. There's still excitement because you have OTAs coming up, mini camp. You're analyzing the draft class. And then after mini camp, which just wrapped up a week or so ago, then you have that month till training camp when there's literally nothing. The players are all on vacation. So that's what we're in right now. But we're almost out of it. Training camp is just a mere 3 weeks away. So Jake and I kind of discuss what expectations are for the Rams, some players we could see stand out, some position groups we want to see shake up a little bit. So we're going to get into a fun conversation. So let's just jump into it. Here we are, myself, Jake Ellenbogen, talking some Rams training camp. All right, Rams fans, super excited finally to have this guy back on. Had him on when we did the Rams roundtable back in the, the very beginning of the offseason, right after the Matthew Stafford news, I believe, before the draft and free agency. But it's been a while since then. So he is the founder, CEO of Downtown Rams, co-host of the Downtown Rams podcast, and running a flourishing YouTube channel, the Jake Ellenbogen channel. My man, Jake, what's up, bro? How you doing?
Hey, thanks so much, Ryan. Appreciate that intro. Things are going well. I'm glad to be back. I'm feeling really good about the Rams. I'm sure, you probably are as well. A lot of people are. But yeah, I'm excited to get into it.
Absolutely, man. So before we get into Rams, I always like catching up with everyone. I know we talked a little bit off air, but you launched your YouTube channel, what, in January-ish?
So I launched it in November of last year.
Okay, November.
Started off, there was a video, not a video, but like the usual talking heads type of thing on ESPN. I saw a video where the Rams and Seahawks, after that game, when the Rams won, and I said that they would win all week. I was very convinced that they were going to win that game. And I kept saying, Seattle, they looked great at the beginning. The offense looked unbelievable. But if you noticed, the offense and defense were like swapping. And the problem is, it's like Russell Wilson carries that team. So they lose. And it just infuriated me so much to make a YouTube channel and just rant, because that was my first video. They lost, and as soon as they lost, it was like first things first or whatever. They went on and they're like, what's happening with Seattle? What's happening with Russell Wilson? Oh my God. Like how could they possibly lose to the LA Rams? And like I just got so pissed. So like I went on, talked about that. I did not Lonzo. I did a LaMelo Ball video, my only NBA video. Did all right. It aged well because I said you can't afford to pass on LaMelo Ball.
Yeah.
And sure enough,
You did good. Yeah.
I did a Giants are going to win the NFC East. That didn't age as well. I did a bunch of videos, but eventually it came to a crossroads when John Wolford was going to be starting Week 17 of the NFL season. I was so happy because I love Wolford. I watched him in the AAF. I had clips that I had already put together, for a separate thing because I was making this argument to somebody about it. And I was like, why don't I just put it into a video? And furthermore, I was like into the whole Mandalorian vibe going on at that point. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. So I literally put together like this Star Wars intro with like the title crawl. And I made just like, I was very new to making thumbnails, and I made a thumbnail that was like Star Wars oriented, like A New Hope themed and everything. And all it was me talking over a bunch of clips with John Wolford. And don't ask how, but I don't know how, but it never got copyright claimed. I'm sure it will someday, but it hit 27,000 views. And I went from like 200 subscribers and not really pushing the channel as much as I could have, to overnight had like 2,000. Crazy. So it was great, and then that allowed me, because, I have a pretty big platform over at Downtown Rams, as it is. And like my personal brand was already doing well. But it's a matter of taking your 6,000, not the time, but now I have around 6,000 followers. It's a matter of taking your followers and moving them over to another platform. That's just not easy to do. And that video allowed me to do that in a sense. On top of that, the, growing on YouTube has now allowed YouTube, YouTube subscribers that didn't even know that I was part of Downtown Rams, didn't know that I had a Twitter. It allows you to kind of connect all of the platforms together. And so it's been huge, man. We're at 5,500 something. I don't know the exact number, subscribers. I have a goal of 20,000 by the end of the year. Obviously, I realize that's a lot, but I want to do this full time. I'm 100% committed to doing it full time, as long as, I can make ends meet. I know people go in thinking I need to make millions of dollars YouTube. That's not going to happen. But it's not, right? But I'm trying to have a realistic goal and, go after it. And if I can make it, honestly, to be honest with you, if I can make 40,000 a year just doing YouTube, I'd quit. I literally quit my day job. I mean, like that'd be enough for me, because then I'd have all that time to just focus on YouTube. That's the thing. I don't think people get that. And on top of that, it's not just YouTube, it's sponsors. It's what we're doing with Downtown Rams. Cause then you do Rams videos on YouTube under a different platform. You can connect the two, and then you bring them together. And that's kind of what I've been trying to do, ever since GTSN kind of failed.
Yeah. That's awesome, dude. Like I'm proud of you, bro, for what you've built. And I just
Appreciate
remember
that.
I remember like overnight almost. Cause I mean, we were obviously, at the LA Football Network, we cover the Rams. So we interact a lot on Twitter and in the social space. And I always tell everyone, I'm like, look, the space is big enough for tons of companies to coexist. It's all about building each other up, not tearing each other down.
Absolutely.
So I always am a big proponent of that. So when I saw you, launch your channel and then that Wilford video and it just blow up and you go from like you said, 200 to like 2,000, I was like, holy shit, this guy's crushing it all of a sudden. And then you got really consistent with it and kept blowing it out. And then you did, I think it was, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like it was the night of the Stafford trade when you decided I'm going to start going live all the time. And you were like live with like thousands of people watching. I was like, what the hell is this guy doing? Like, I was trying to, I'll be real with you, bro. I'm trying to like take little tidbits what you do. Cause I'm trying to apply it to obviously my own company and our own YouTube stuff. Cause you found that niche that you obviously had a following of, like you said, and you were able to bring them over. And yeah, just talk to me real quick about that, how the streaming just like out of nowhere took off. Cause you built a little subscriber list, but those subscribers don't exactly translate to live watchers. And you had a good week there where you had like radio-like numbers.
That was nuts. I was not prepared for that. So a lot of people don't know this and a lot of people do know this, but I was going to move to LA in March.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't for the right reasons. It was for, independence, finding a studio. But then I realized I can get all of that here in upstate New York and not have to worry about moving across the country and all of that. And just, incurring those expenses, having an kind of unsure what I would do employment, And so, yeah, exactly. So I stayed and my cousin and I leased this office building or office space in this office building. And we made a studio out of it. And we have it's so much better having like business internet versus it honestly pisses me off knowing how much better business internet is compared to having, internet in a neighborhood because they sell you on, well, yeah, you have 800 megabits per second or whatever, but you're probably only getting 400 of that because you're sharing it all on your strip of, in the neighborhood. Right.
Yeah.
Whereas business internet, you're only on one, like it's your server, like you don't have to share with anybody.
Mm-hmm.
So we did that for the AJ show that we do every Sunday. And I decided, one day I was like, after we got done, I was like, I want to keep going. And he had to go. So I was sitting there. I'm like, I got a nice platform here. I think I'm going to stream. And I don't even remember what I streamed first. It might have been, I think I started streaming the pregame of the Rams Packers, right? Before the playoffs. And it did well. And I was like, okay, I used to do it, but I used to do it on Facebook and I'd be happy getting 80 people.
Yeah.
But then when the 100 started coming in, I was like, okay. And then the season ends and the post game did very well. So I started to notice something. I'm like, wait, live streaming, I don't have to edit.
Yeah, right.
I don't have to do all of that work. And a lot of people don't realize all my videos are recorded separately. So I record on that camera pointing at me. Mm-hmm. I put up Logic Pro and I record the audio separate. So I combine the two in post. Mm-hmm. So, it can be kind of a pain. But with live streaming, I didn't have to do that. I was just like, oh, it's already done. I don't have to worry. I can go home and just be like, everything's done. There's no, but on top of that, it's engaging. It's creating a level of, engagement, but a relationship with your viewers that, we previously didn't have. I mean, people just saw me as the guy that talked to them, and now I'm talking with them. I'm talking at them. I'm communicating with them. And so, I started off doing that. And then I actually started doing the call recorder type of stuff where I had a Discord channel. And I'd say, come in the Discord channel. I'll bring on certain people. I'll have you on the call and we will talk. And so, that started doing well. And then sure enough, Blaine and I had scheduled, Blaine's the managing editor of Downtown Rams, for those of you who don't know. And Blaine and I had scheduled doing a live stream talking about the Senior Bowl because he had been more into it than I had because I didn't go this year and I just wasn't as interested as I was in years past. So he was so into it and he was giving all this insight. I feel so bad to this day because it doesn't exist. Like I remember making this really dope looking thumbnail for the Senior Bowl. Yeah. And then I remember getting rid of that mid conversation when we got the news, Matthew Stafford was traded to the Rams, and we're on it. It's about 60 people in there. So, I mean, that's pretty good, for like Senior Bowl, but it went from 60 to like 600 in like 20 minutes because I changed it. I did like Matthew Stafford it is because I was deciding between like I had a stream where it was Matthew Stafford or Deshaun Watson. I had people come in and explain like why, like which one that they would want. And then so I put Matthew Stafford it is in this like, this very quick thumbnail. And I remember saying it like Matthew Stafford was traded to the LA Rams or whatever. I was so hyped. And I was like, I think I'm going to be here a lot longer. So I'm going to update this. You keep talking. I'm going to be here a lot longer than I intended to be. And sure enough, I was. I mean, Alexis ends up coming on towards the end. We go like 2.5 hours longer. I mean, just the live stream itself had nearly 15,000 viewers altogether. So I mean, it was crazy, and that's really how like that all started. And I'm just keep in mind, like I started in November of last year, midway through the NFL season with not really much of a platform until like I built that going into the playoffs. Yeah. So now having that going into the season, I'm just I don't have words to describe how excited I am for this season and the plans I have for this season. So it should be a lot of fun for both of us, honestly.
Yeah, dude. No, that's awesome. Yeah, we kind of started our YouTube channel after the season, like end of January or after they lost the playoffs. I'm like, we have all these podcasts anyway. I need to convert these to video. Might as well.
Absolutely.
And then started a Saturday morning live show, probably similar to what you do on Sunday mornings. We might change that once the season starts, but we started that just like 2 months ago. And yeah, like you said, it's just so fun being able to, people commenting in, you can show them on the screen and whatnot. And you get that interaction and you get people that, like you said, may not listen to my podcast, but because I have someone on the live show, they'll come in and listen live, and then you can, promote the site and do stuff like that. So it's just an awesome avenue. And it's the new form of media now. Like, I don't want to say radio is dead because it's not, but you need to have other avenues. And this is definitely one of them.
Yeah. YouTube is the number 2 search engine in the world. I'm actually taking a course right now with Sean Cannell, who is the founder of Think Media. They are absolutely huge. Yeah, they're the ones that have given me all sorts of tips. I've been watching their videos for a while now. I have, studio lighting, and not just like makeshift studio lighting. Like these are really nice newer lights. And I got into, what a soft box does for the lighting, what soft lighting does, yellow lights, how actually yellow lights are really underrated. Because if you're looking at like my, like just regular videos from the past, I'm super, super white here. But like here, I actually have like this yellow kind of warmer lighting with the soft box. I have the hair light, which is separating my like hair and my head from the background. As you can see, pops it out. I got some lights in the back over there. It's just been really cool, like following along with all that. Now I just got into the course, so I'll learn a lot more as we go on. But it's crazy because the biggest thing about Think Media is they offer all sorts of this free content that can help you really grow your channel. And there's little tidbits where they'll say, look, done is better than perfect. And a lot of people they want to do it, but they don't want to do it. And so I just say like to anybody that asks me like, what do I do to get into YouTube? Hit record. Like just hit record, like start, because, there's so many opportunities, and there's this common misconception that you need the best camera ever, which you don't. I mean, I started, my first ever YouTube channel was so long ago. I mean, like I just threw something together. It was on like a CS20 Logitech webcam, and I was using, whatever microphone I was using. I think I was using my Triton headset, to be honest with you. Yeah. So, obviously as time goes on, I wanted to upgrade and invest in myself. And I'm sure you saw plenty of those tweets out there. That's what I was talking about. I sold all my Tesla stock and crazy stuff, right? Like, why would you do that? But I realized I didn't want to invest in a company. I wanted to invest in myself. And so, I bought, this actually isn't even the best mic that I have, but I love it so much. It's the Shure MV7. The SM7B is actually, the industry default or whatever you want to call it. It is at, I love it. It is at the office. So I have that hooked up to, whatever I have, the interface. And then this thing is just a USB mic that is a dynamic / condenser. It's very cool.
I love that mic right now. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But like the thing is, like for me, is that like there's this common misconception you need the best equipment. I leveled up as time went on. Like now I have this camera is amazing. It's the A6400 by Sony, and I had the M50 by Canon. But before that, I had a webcam. So as you see it, like you just like you don't have to start with an M50. You definitely don't have to start with an A6400.
Yeah,
you can honestly just use your iPhone. I think people forget that iPhone cameras are so good. And it's
4K.
not horrible to do that,
Not at all. The hard thing I'll tell people if you use an iPhone, because I ran into this trouble, and maybe you have too. If you use an iPhone, you use your 4K. If you don't have a good laptop or computer that you're editing with, whether you're using Final Cut or Adobe, and then you put that 4K video in there, it'll just be a nightmare trying to edit it.
Oh yeah,
I did this like hour-long video once using my iPhone, and this was on my old laptop, and I remember like it wouldn't sync up, like it would just pause. It was choppy. I'm like, what the hell is going on? Like it looks great on my phone, and I like reached out to support, like, oh, your computer can't like keep up with the 4K quality. So that's one little thing I would say. But other than that, yeah, you're absolutely right. And
the microphone in the iPhone is like really good. I mean, I might get a microphone for when I go see the Rams Giants and Steelers Broncos. I'll probably make a video for that as well. But like, you don't need to have a microphone for your phone. Like when I was doing those interviews that sounded crystal clear for whatever reason, because the mic's actually really good. When I was doing the interviews at the Senior Bowl, I didn't have any like set piece. I just held my phone up and it worked. So
yeah, they're fantastic. And even the new, MacBook Pro laptops they call it studio quality microphone. It's not as good as what we're using now, but it's really not that bad. And as people can see, I'm using my daughter's nursery is where my office is. You just got to get out there and record. So your setup looks much better. So well done.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, step by step, brick by brick. All right, Jake, let's get into some Rams. So
sounds good to me.
Love hearing all the stuff you're doing, and obviously we stay in touch all the time. So super pumped on that. But we are a mere 22 days away, I think, from rookies reporting, and 24 days from vets reporting to training camp in Irvine again, California. Can't wait. I'm going to be there. Pumped to be down there again. Let me just start off with this. I guess, what are your kind of expectations for this training camp in a sense? Because the Rams are one of the very different teams that, they don't really push veterans. We had Andrew Whitworth on, and he was like, he's loved being here. Cause like, yeah, I literally practice like once a week. Like I don't put pads on anymore. Like Frostee was giving him a hard time. Like you probably don't do anything. You just show up and just like coach basically. And then you start on Sundays. But what is kind of the expectation for the Rams? Is there certain players that we want to see kind of jump up and make that big leap in training camp? Is it kind of like the bar is set and what we expect? What are your expectations for camp? I know it's a really broad question, but we'll start.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll just kind of break down every little aspect of that question. I mean, let's just start with the offense. When you look, I want to see, just going through each position, I want to see first off with the quarterback room. Obviously, John Wolford's the backup, and I'm not worried about him moving forward. I actually think he can start after Stafford, as crazy as that sounds. I'm not worried about him.
That's your guy. I know that's your guy.
Yeah. I want to see the development of Perkins. I want to see the development of Hodges. And whoever wins that battle belongs on the practice squad, or if they keep 3, belongs there. But I think Perkins offers an ability that they don't actively have on the roster. He's super fast, 4.4, 4.5 speed. Yeah. Like he's legit, but he also has a deep ball that no one talks about as well. He also came in to Virginia and completely changed the culture there when he took over. So he's a winner. And then you look at Devlin Hodges, and this, I've talked to both of them. Devlin Hodges at Samford, he was playing just, against really nobody. But the thing is with him is that he always was making plays happen that just weren't there. He was playing, he elevated his game. And then when they played against the best competition, like when they went against like a Florida State, sure, he had interceptions, but I love that he was at least trying to win a game and not just like, I don't want to get blown out. Like he will take chances. So now you look at Devlin, and he started 8 games for the Pittsburgh Steelers. The issue was, and I say this all over and over again, he gets a lot of hate for his lack of arm strength, but I swear to you, he would have done so much better if he was in this offense right now with the Steelers and Matt Canada at OC. He had Randy Fiechner, who is the worst offensive coordinator I've literally ever seen. And Like, I just think, like, to me, Hodges is a capable quarterback in this league. I'm not saying he'll be a starter, but I'm saying he could be a backup. That's an intriguing signing to me. But I also have been hearing that Perkins, could be a Taysom Hill type of player. So if that's the case, then I think he might make it by default. You look at running back, and I want to see Xavier Jones get going.
Just to jump in, I was surprised Pittsburgh let Hodges go and re-sign Mason Rudolph. I thought Hodges outplayed him by a long shot. So good for the Rams.
I know. Mason Rudolph, I just don't get it. He looks the part, but he isn't the part. That's Mason Rudolph.
That's Oklahoma State quarterbacks, I think, in a team, basically. So sorry, go ahead to running backs.
No, you're good. Running backs, not worried about Cam Akers or Darrell Henderson, except for the fact that they both got hurt last year. That's a little annoying. Xavier Jones, I want to see him take over. I dubbed him in my last video as potentially the MVP of preseason in all of football because he is such a talented running back. He had 20-something touchdowns his last season at SMU. Very talented, right? A guy that has great contact balance, vision, should have gone in an unprecedented draft, because keep in mind, we didn't get really any draft process during that season. Yeah. I mean, if it was this year, Xavier Jones is a 3rd, 4th round pick, he's legit, but instead he goes undrafted. The Rams reap the rewards there. If you're wondering why Les Snead's constantly mentioning him by name, that's why. And so another thing is, like, Raymond Calais was drafted by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 7th round. They actually like Xavier Jones more. The question is, it's between Calais and Funk. To me, it really doesn't matter. I think Funk offers more as a gunner on special teams. But I think, when you look at Raymond Calais, he's a better returner. Calais probably offers more in the passing game as well. I'd probably go with Calais. I think they're going to go with Funk. But it doesn't matter because Xavier Jones is the number 3 guy and could very well get playing time this season. He's that good. And, I think that, it's time for people to realize he's going to wear number 25 this year, wore 35 last year, was active all 16 games, I believe. He didn't play on the offense, but he was active all 16 games. So the thing is, he's got the comfortability down because he's already played 16 games, whether it be on the offense or not. He's also got the trust that he's established in the coaching staff already. They're talking about him by name. That's always a good thing. Yeah. So I want to see him take the next step. And if that's the case, it's really going to help the Rams moving forward because, look, Darrell Henderson was drafted in 2019. So his contract season's coming. Like, it's going to be here soon. Yeah, I know. And sooner or later, you're going to have to pay Cam Akers, right? So, if Xavier Jones kills it, then you have all the leverage and be like, sorry, I know you want to stay here, Cam. I know you want to stay here, Darrell, but like this guy's killing it for us. We trust him. Like, we're not worried about him. So I love Xavier Jones. I call him X-Man. I know he's called X, but I call him X-Man because it sounds better. I like it. But I'm excited for him. And honestly, he's not the best in pass pro, right? He's not, but he's a willing pass protector. He's going to try. I hate when I see running backs that are scratching and clawing their way onto a roster, and it's like they don't even care about pass protection. Yeah. Like, to me, that is what keeps guys like Malcolm Brown going, because they can stay on the field for long, doses of time, because 100%. they can help you in pass pro.
Yeah. Quick break to talk about my friends at Manscaped. Summer's not coming anymore. Summer's here. 4th of July has happened. Were you ready? Was your beach bod ready to go? If you haven't unveiled it, are you ready to unveil it? Well, you're in luck, because our friends at Manscaped just launched their 4th generation performance package, which includes the Lawnmower 4.0. You heard that right. If you followed Manscaped, they're now on their 4.0 lawnmower. Complement your summer bod with a trim from the leaders in male grooming. The sun is shining and calling your name, fellas. Join the 2 million men. 2 million. You heard that right. 2 million men, myself included, worldwide, who trust Manscaped. And get ready for hot guy summer by going to manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping. Use my promo code LAFB20. So the new Performance Package 4.0 is going to include the Lawnmower 4.0, which is absolutely fantastic. LED light, waterproof, skin-safe technology. Nothing like it on the market. It does what it does. You're also going to get the Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, a Crop Preserver ball deodorant, Crop Reviver toner, performance boxer briefs, and a travel bag to hold everything in one place. Can't get anything like it. Performance Package 4.0. Head to manscaped.com today. Use my promo code LAFB20. 20% off. Free shipping worldwide. You're not going to regret it. Get ready for summer. Summer's already here. Be prepared for the rest of summer. Or if you live in LA like we do, it's summer year round. Keep that body looking good. Manscaped.com, LAFB20. 20% off. Free shipping worldwide. Absolutely. Super important. And yeah, I agree with you 100%. I love Xavier Jones. I think he's going to be, I think it would be RB3 too. When you have that kind of production in college, no matter where you go, it reminds me, obviously, different position. We'll get to in a minute, but Chris Garrett, a guy that I love that draft pick this year because of, he's from a small school. He didn't play this year because of COVID, but when you have that kind of production, it's going to translate at some level. It might not be a starter, but it's going to be a rotational guy. And Xavier Jones, because of that production you talked about, leading the NCAA basically in touchdowns, like it's going to translate at some point at some level within the NFL. So yeah, I agree with you 100%. So receiver, I guess we'll just go down. Yeah, go down the line.
Yeah.
Receiver, probably is this the deepest receiver room in for sure? Probably would say the NFC West. Well, the NFC West has a lot of deep receivers, but I think the Rams receiving room is one of the deepest in the NFL. Would you agree with that?
Oh, I would. Anytime you have two guys that are models of consistency, albeit if Cooper Kupp stays healthy, that's the only question mark I have here. But and honestly, I'll also respond to that in saying that I'm not worried if Cooper Kupp gets hurt or not, because Van Jefferson, Deshaun Jackson, Tutu Atwell, and Ben Skoranek, I think all of them can play at this level. But Robert Woods is one of the more underrated receivers in football. I think he's a tick ahead of Cooper Kupp based on his ability in the run game. I think he's a better blocker, marginally better blocker. And I think, he might not be as good of a route runner as Kupp, but I do think he's more explosive than Kupp. So I think, you have those two guys. You have Jackson, Jackson doesn't have to catch a pass all season. As long as he's stretching the defense, he's stretching the field, it's not going to matter. He will be doing his role. And then Van Jefferson, I wanted to give him like this breakout season when I did my projections. And initially I had, but I feel like Van Jefferson is there's just not going to be enough, there's too many mouths to feed. So I don't think he's going to have that breakout season. Like, in a sense, he will, because, a 611-yard season and 12 touchdowns for the Rams is like having 1,400 yards and like 17 touchdowns in Jacksonville. To me, I feel like Van Jefferson is totally on the cusp of finding himself and being a top-notch receiver, and I think he's going to be the go-to guy after Kupp and Woods. I think they're going to keep, they're going to keep him around. They're going to extend him. I think they love him. That's why I don't think that they went out and got Julio Jones or anything like that. Like, I think there was a lot there. There was more, speculation than actual, like, true knowledge that they were going out and getting Julio. I think they really like the receiver group, and I think they're building it kind of similar to the way the 49ers are building their receiver group. They want guys that can make plays after the catch. When you look at Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk and George Kittle, and of course now Jalen Hurd, if he's able to stay healthy, those are all guys that can make plays after the catch. That's the thing with the Rams. They got a bunch of guys like that. Preseason for me and training camp, I want to see Atwell and Skoranek really take a huge step here, because I want to see them get opportunity during the season. And honestly, like, people are sleeping on Skoranek. This guy they actually look at as a potential starter in the future. This isn't just a 7th round throw him away pick. Like, he has a chance to have a serious role on this team. And I understand that's kind of ruling out guys like Landon Akers, who, he tested pretty well. He offers some upside there. Tristan Jackson, who was on the team last year on the 53-man roster. Koski spent, the whole year on the practice squad. And of course, Simba Webster. But when you look at like Skoranek's ability, he's offering something that they don't actively have right now, at receiver, because they're calling Jacob Harris a tight end. And since they're going to do that, then they don't have that at receiver. Skoranek offers, the wide receiver tight end hybrid. He offers a big body target in the red zone, where I think Sean McVay struggles more than anything is in the red zone. You can go back to his days in Washington.
Yeah.
And this guy has vice grips for hands. So like, if Stafford just puts it up there. He's going to go up and grab it. He's got strong hands. I don't have to worry about him dropping, passes left and right. I think he's going to have some contribution, maybe even more than Tutu Atwell, because of his ability in the red zone. I think they might be able to isolate him and even Jacob Harris, one-on-one on the outside, end zone fade type of deal. I'm really curious because I think a lot of those guys have a chance to really blow up in preseason. But that's what I want to see in training camp. And I mean, if the Rams want to keep more than their fair share of receivers, I'm curious to see if they would consider keeping Simba Webster, because when you look, I know a lot of people hate on him, but let's just call it like it is. Returners in the NFL aren't very good. I mean, if you look, there's about 15 okay returners. Yeah. There's about 2 elite returners, and everyone else is just okay. And Simba Webster falls in that top 15 category. So you're talking about getting rid of a top 15 returner. Let's just realize that the returners just aren't that, we don't have a Dante Hall. We don't have a Devin Hester. It's not that league right now. So Simba Webster might honestly be a top 10 returner. And as crazy as that is to say, I mean, yes, does he miss holes? Does he not have the best vision? Does he get tripped up? Does he not have the best contact balance? All of that can be true. He's still a top 10 returner, arguably, in this league. So I'm not 100% convinced that he should be gone, but we'll see.
Well, I think the biggest thing in the return game is if you have one guy that consistently do it, that alone is worth it. There's so many teams that continually and we saw before when the Rams were trying to put Cup back there, and so many other teams are it's every game there's a different return guy because they just can't. So if you have someone, even if he's not great, but he's just consistently there and he's not fumbling, you just kind of take it as, okay, we're good there.
I mean, if Atwell can do it, man, he's going to be explosive. Another guy I'd consider doing, Robert Rochelle, if he could do it, because he's a very explosive athlete.
Very explosive.
And he's got good. I mean, for a corner, he's got some good contact balance. I think that's the thing that people forget is you don't just need a guy that's super fast. I mean, Jeremiah Haydell, he ran a 4.8, but I would actually feel more comfortable with him returning kicks and punts than potentially Tutu Atwell, because that's what he was doing. Tutu actually, despite what a lot of people think, he wasn't a gadget guy in college. He was a legit wide receiver. He would be, inside at the slot, or he'd be on the boundary. And Haydell was strictly a returner. Yeah. So I think he's got an opportunity. I don't know if the Rams will keep 7 or 8 receivers. I don't think they really have to, but if they did, I mean, I think Haydell, doesn't have the most speed, but neither did Farrell Cooper, and he was great. I mean, Farrell Cooper, aside from that one game, is maybe the best returner except for Leroy Irvin the Rams have had in their history.
Yeah, wasn't he an all-pro return man? If I'm not mistaken, or a Pro Bowler or something in the return game? So
he was.
So we'll see how that plays out. Backtracking a tiny bit, I'm envisioning in the red zone a trips formation with Skowronek and Harris in front and Tutu Atwell lined up right behind them. And then it's what do you do? Defense. You got the speed guy that we can just give a quick little bubble screen to, or I got 2 trees that are going to go up and get it. So they can get real creative, I think, in the red zone now, finally. And I'll love it. And then last question for you about the receivers, and then we'll move on. Van Jefferson, you talked about him earlier. Obviously, a guy that fans want to see break out because of his training camp last year. He was the guy that everyone was just oozing over in training camp. Jalen Ramsey, was praising him. Obviously, the staff was, then the media was as well. Do you think, as long as Kupp and Woods are there, do you think he can ever be statistically more than what Josh Reynolds was? Because in a sense, that might be his role until one of them moves on, because Reynolds was that 400, 500, 600-yard guy. I think Van Jefferson has more talent, but do you think statistically he could ever go beyond that, or do you think they just have too many mouths to feed?
Well, it's a great question. I think it really all hinges on Stafford, because, I think a lot of the case, and this isn't, a Jared Goff bash fest, but let's call it like it is. Goff would not throw to a receiver that had a guy near him. He needed a guy to be open, and Stafford doesn't need that. He's going to throw it up and be like, all right, you go get it. I trust you, and I think that's the thing is, so a lot of those opportunities, Goff didn't give those guys opportunities that Stafford's going to give them. So in a sense, it's hard to compare the two. I get what you're saying. I'd probably say they're going to be pretty equal. Mainly because I think they're really going to try to get Jacob Harris involved more than people believe. The jury's still out on Brycen Hopkins. I still, he's my number one tight end in the 2020, draft. I think they got a total steal, but they also have, Tyler Higbee. They have Johnny Mundt, who you saw last year. He still got some of that athleticism that he had. It's not all robbed from him from those 2 ACL tears. I mean, you saw that one, I forget what play it was. It might have been against the Bears. He had like a 40-yard scamper.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
After he caught the ball, but and then they have Blanton, who I don't think will make the roster, but probably stay on the practice squad. Solid blocking tight end that can get open in the red zone, be a little bit of a mismatch at a Mizzou. But I think that's really the thing here. And another thing is something that's a little unforeseen that I think a lot of people aren't expecting. And maybe I'm out of pocket here for saying this, but I think Darrell Henderson's going to be used like James White. Like, I think they're going to keep him on the field a lot. I think, when what you saw out of Frank Reich last year in his offense, you look at what Nyheim Hines did, catching 63 passes. They had 1,000-yard do-it-all receiver in Jonathan Taylor, and they still use Nyheim Hines' 63 passes he caught. I think the Rams could do something like that with Darrell Henderson. And you could argue Henderson has more juice than Cam Akers. Like, Henderson, I feel like, is more likely to house a run and not get tackled from behind than Cam Akers. That doesn't mean Cam Akers is slow. It just means I think Henderson has the long speed that Akers doesn't. And I think Akers has long speed. I just don't think he has Darrell Henderson long speed. Yeah. So that's important.
Henderson, to me, is a slasher. He averaged like 8.9 yards per carry at Memphis. So that was his role, breaking open and breaking it out.
Exactly. And so, when you factor in him potentially having a large role in the passing game, I think it hurts, a Van Jefferson, it hurts Deshaun, it hurts Jacob Harris. Van is perfectly capable going over 1,200 yards if he gets the opportunity. But there's not going to be a ton of opportunity if everyone stays healthy, and I hope everyone stays healthy. That's not realistic, though. I do think there's going to be an injury. It could either be Kupp, it could be Higbee, somebody, and I could definitely see Van getting to at least 800. But if there's no injury and it's like Reynolds, it's going to be just like Reynolds. Like the statistical output will be nearly the same. He'll probably have more yards per catch. He'll probably look more impressive doing it, but it's going to be similar, I think.
Yeah. Okay. That's how I see it. Cause there's just too many mouths to feed, and they've built this juggernaut of a receiver room, and you have tight ends that can do it all. So, quickly before you go to the defense, you mentioned him, so you might repeat yourself a little bit, but I'm just curious your take on Brycen Hopkins, what his role you think will be, or I guess since we're talking training camp, what do you think he needs to do in training camp to have a role? Because obviously Higbee's the guy, and then everyone's fawning over Jacob Harris, who is going to line up at tight end as of now. So what does Hopkins need to do to prove that his worth and as athletic as he was, and as the Rams said, was their number one tight end in the draft last year, and to get him on the field?
It's hard because, I was hearing that he's done a nice job in camp last year, as far as becoming a blocker. And I don't think blocking was his biggest issue. I think, his 9 or 10 drops his last season was a big issue. So if he's still having that issue, then that could be hindering his development. So, they might have to, work on, fixing his hand placement when the ball comes, certain trajectory and everything, because a lot of guys having a hard time getting their hands in the right spot, when they're catching a pass early on in their career. When they fix it, it's night and day. And so that might be an issue there with Hopkins, but it's hard because it's like, we don't really know, like we haven't seen him. It's not like when we were watching Gerald Everett, dropping wide open touchdowns and having a hard time getting open, and not, hearing about him not knowing the playbook and all that. Like, that was one thing, but like, it's been so dead with Brycen Hopkins. Yeah. I don't know if that's good or bad. And I think a lot of us just assume it's bad because we've heard Jacob Harris so much, but this could just be the Rams, trying to kind of sneak, maybe build up Tyler Higbee's trade value, trade him mid-season, know what they have in Brycen Hopkins, know what they have in, Mundt and Harris. And that could be, I wouldn't put anything past them, because no one is safe on this team. We've already seen anybody can be traded, except for, Donald, I would say, and probably Ramsey, honestly. I think he's also untradeable. It doesn't get better than this corner in the league, but, I think, that's something to keep in mind. Is that I've honestly, as everything's evolved, I kind of feel like Harris is going to push their hand, where I think he'll be starting by the end of the year potentially. You know, and I think Higbee then would become, you know, expendable. But at the same time, I think Higbee's talented. And I don't necessarily subscribe to the notion that he was just a 5-game guy, you know, that stretch in 2019, because he had 3 touchdowns against the Eagles and has shown the ability. I think it's always been too many mouths to feed. If you put Higbee with the Raiders and you know, he swapped places with, you know, like a Darren Waller, who's to say Higbee doesn't literally emulate what Waller did and Waller doesn't emulate what Higbee did? You know what I mean? I just think a lot of these guys are in really good situations. A lot of these guys aren't. Higbee's in a good situation to win. It's a great team to be a part of. But if you're looking at individual accolades, this is not a good team to be a part of. It's funny because, you know, Sean McVay was a tight end coach, but I don't feel like he uses the tight ends anywhere near as much as he uses the wide receivers. And there are some coaches that are just obsessed with using tight ends. You know, I don't feel like the Rams are that team necessarily. And they use the tight ends a lot, but like, I mean, you know, Waller, and at this point, is he really even a tight end? I feel like he's really just, you know, he's just a receiver, but they use Waller more than anybody, you know, and, you know, the 49ers use Kittle more than anybody. And the Chiefs, you could argue, use Kelsey more than anybody, probably Tyreek Hill, but probably, you know, probably about even. But it's like the Rams don't have that. They don't have even targets with tight ends and wide receivers. It doesn't matter how good Higbee plays. That was just never happening because that's not what, you know, Sean McVay wants to do. So it'll be interesting. You know, if Higbee has like an 800-yard season, then that's out the window and probably is the end of Bryson Hopkins because it's like, why would you bother? But if he has another like 400, 500-yard season and, you know, midway through, they get a nice deal for Higbee. We've already heard them, you know, being interested in Ertz. I'm not convinced Ertz doesn't end up as a Ram just because they've shown the ability to go out and get guys like that. And Ertz has been connected. And I mean, I'd like to see him, you know, with Carson Wentz and, you know, Reich with the Colts, but
that'd be fun.
I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, I would never make the trade because I just want to see Harris get involved. And I like Higbee, but it's definitely begs the question, like, what's the future there? And, you know, there's times coming up where it'll be easier to get rid of Higbee and save a lot of money. And I think they're going to have to make a tough decision if they want to bring back Darius Williams. So that might be part of that.
Absolutely. Yeah. It'll be very interesting to see. And we'll see too this year, again, not a bash fest, but we'll see how much of the lack of production in tight end production could have been Jared Goff, you know, not hitting tight end.
It's true.
And if Stafford uses it more, and we'll see.
Well, and you just made me think, the hype that Jacob Harris has, and yes, I'm partially responsible for that, comparing him to Megatron.
But why not?
Keep this in mind. Higbee drops one pass opening night, people are going to be calling for Jacob Harris.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, and the fans start to get involved in that type of stuff. Fans have the say. I mean, I'm going to say it right now, like, the fans are the reason John Wolford got to start at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Because everyone, like, people, I think the Dolphins game was when people woke up for the most part with Jared Goff, and they're like, that was a totally winnable game.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And they lost by 11. So
you had like 70 yards passing.
Yeah. And it's like, you know, so I feel like the fans, you know, I know they don't coach. I know they don't GM. I know we get made fun of, especially, you know, our Twitter fan base, but fans have more pull than people think. And, you know, when you start going like, so say Higbee just has a really rough opening night against the Bears and Jacob Harris catches like a touchdown.
Yeah.
Okay. Just one touchdown.
Touchdown. Yeah.
Yeah. 2 catches, 1 touchdown. Everyone's going to be like, I want Higbee gone.
Yep.
Like, I made the argument the other day. I'm like, Tyler Higbee statistically is arguably the best tight end in Rams history.
Oh yeah.
And like, he would be absolutely like just trashed if he had a bad game. And then Jacob Harris came in and caught a touchdown, because the Harris, you know, the vibes I'm getting and like the hype is so high right now for a team that's not the Steelers, Cowboys, Patriots, Buccaneers, because like the Rams it's a big market, but the Rams haven't quite established themselves as a Steelers Cowboys franchise where they always get talked about no matter what.
Yeah.
So, when I'm not able to even select Jacob Harris in a fantasy league with no Rams fans and he goes in the 11th round in a redraft,
oh man,
that's how you know his buzz has gotten to the point where it's up here, and fans are going to be knocking on Les Snead and Sean McVay and all those guys' door, and they'll be like, "You need to play this kid. You drafted him. We bought into him. Now you need to play him."
Yeah, and I agree. I think they will play him early. The only thing that kind of concerns me about Bryson Hopkins, and maybe this is me just reading like way too much into this, at the open practice that I was at, he was actually running with the 3s and 4s. So he was with Hodges and Perkins, whereas obviously Jacob Harris and Higbee didn't even suit up for that, but they had other guys running with Stafford and Walford. So that was the one thing I'm like, you don't want to read too much in those open practices because it's, in front of the fans, they're not really running too hard, but still it's like, it's a little weird that this guy that we're waiting to see is running with the 3s and 4s.
Yeah, that's not ideal. And that makes you wonder. I mean, you don't want to speculate, but it makes you wonder, is he behind? Was he more raw than we thought? Did he speak up and voice his frustration about them drafting another tight end? I mean, I think all of which could be true, but I'm not going to get him in trouble for something he did or didn't do because I don't know if it was or didn't happen. But I like Bryson Hopkins. Had a chance to talk with him at the Senior Bowl. He was, by all accounts, when he met with the Rams, because I had talked to him right after he had the meeting with the Rams. And he said, they envisioned a tandem between him and Tyler Higbee, and he did not mention Gerald Everett, and that's why I took that the rest of the year. When everyone was like, "Why aren't you talking about Gerald Everett?" I'm like, "Because he's gone. He's gone. He's gone. They've admitted that they made a mistake drafting him. Yeah. He's gone. And I like him, and I think he's going to be very good in Seattle.
He'll probably have his best games against the Rams for sure.
I think he's going to have a great year in Seattle. Like fantasy wise, he's going to be a top 10 tight end.
Yeah, well, because they have what? Jacob Hollister is the other tight end. Like, he'll instantly be like the guy.
Yeah, I mean Disley, who's he'll have like 3 amazing games and then he'll tear his ACL again.
Yeah,
I mean, but with Everett, he had at one point during the year, according to Next Gen Stats by the NFL, Everett had the largest separation gap per route of any tight end in the league. So this guy gets open. I don't really know what the deal is. He either can't catch or I don't know. But I think with Russell Wilson, I think things are going to be a lot easier for him. And he's the perfect guy for Russell Wilson because he, you've seen him. He has improvisational skills where just because he ran his route, that's not like the end of his job. Like if he sees Goff trying to make something happen, he will try to get open. That's the thing. Sean McVay, his offense, that's how it is.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson is literally a walking, improv. So he will be doing a lot of that. I think Everett will be helping him out in those situations. Obviously, you have freaking DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. No, let's just throw in, the kid from, what is it? Western Michigan. I totally forgot his name.
Dwayne Eskridge.
Yeah. I loved him. Yeah, Dwayne Eskridge.
I know most fans wanted him. Yeah.
I mean. Yeah, I won't get too much into it because I like Tutu Atwell. Yeah. Now I hated that pick when it happened. Yeah, but they have a lot of weapons, and I think Everett will do well. But I going back to what I was saying though, I just felt like Hopkins, he was kind of assured that he would be the guy next to Higbee, and I wouldn't be surprised if he voiced his opinion because. Look, he didn't even get an opportunity last year. He had 2 snaps, I believe, on the offense, and they were blocking snaps. I mean, I don't know why they didn't give him an opportunity. And I'm not one of those people that he's just not winning it in camp. A guy who never won it in camp, but actually played well when he went on the field? That was Austin Davis, who was the quarterback for the Rams, 2014 in St. Louis. And he actually put up some good numbers early on. It was when the offensive line was atrocious and the Rams run game was averaging 3.2 yards per carry when they asked him to run 7-step dropbacks that's when he fell off. But Davis was a horrible practice quarterback. That's all I ever heard, is that he had a noodle arm and all that. But when he came into the game, he played differently. Yeah. And so it's like, why can't Hopkins do that? I don't think the jury's out on Hopkins until I've seen him struggle in the game, or I've seen him blow up in the game, because, if he's another one of those Evan Ingrams who's very athletic, but can't catch, then fine. But I don't know if that's the case necessarily. And I don't know because I haven't seen him in the NFL. So
yeah, exactly. I just hope in training camp we see him with Stafford, get some reps. I think that's to answer my own question. What I want to see from him in camp is to get reps with the ones and see if he can run with the ones, run against the one defense. And then that can hopefully sneak him into some packages in actual games. So we'll see though. I mean, it's a good problem the Rams have, being loaded at every position basically. And we won't even talk about the offensive line. That's been talked about a ton this offseason. We talked about it on our round table. I know me and you were both big on hopefully bringing Austin Blythe back. They did not. So now we'll see most likely Corbett, and then we'll see, Shelton, other guys battle out in camp. But yeah, we'll
excited for Ankrum, by the way. I will throw that out.
Ankrum.
I think he's going to be the left tackle after Whitworth.
Yeah.
Can hold me on that. And I'm a Noteboom fan.
Yeah.
I interviewed Noteboom at the senior. I like Noteboom, and I don't have a disdain for Bobby Evans, but as a lot of people know, I didn't love that pick.
Yeah.
And I get tired of hearing how Bobby Evans shut down Khalil Mack when Khalil Mack was chipped literally every single play of that game.
Yeah.
But no,
that's the Rams version of what what's his name did to Jalen Ramsey. It's like, you're barking up a tree that really actually happened. That's like our version of it.
Well, that is so obnoxious. They keep showing that incomplete pass, and it's like, bro, I like Mooney. Are you trying to get me to hate Mooney?
Yeah, right. Like, I hate the guy that has nothing to do with these clips getting shown everywhere. Yeah, no, I love Ankrum, and I think Witt, after talking to him, he's just excited to basically tutor his incumbent, which is, he mentioned Noteboom, he mentioned Ankrum, he mentioned Evans, mentioned even David Edwards, who I know he's played guard, but could play tackle after he did it at Wisconsin.
Yeah, he definitely could.
But all right, defense quickly before I let you go. I've already kept you longer than I told you I would. So sorry for that.
Hey, you're fine, man. It's all fun.
Once we get talking ball, it goes.
Absolutely.
Couple positions we'll talk about, but first let's start with linebacker, inside backer, because I think that's the one that everyone is kind of really questioning who will be the two starters. I love personally Ernest Jones, who was just drafted, and Traven Howard, who I think is just, I'm not going to call him Corey Littleton, but he has the athleticism to go side on the sideline more than the other guys do, more than Micah Kaiser, more than Troy Reeder. Obviously, there are two guys had more playing time last year. Howard missing all last year with injuries. So I'll just toss it to you. Who do you see going into camp as the favorites, and who do you want to be the starters when we see opening week against the Bears?
So I'm kind of along the lines of, with you. Ernest Jones was not my first, second, third, whatever selection at linebacker, but he's a Ram. And I went through, watched his film. I think he's going to start. I don't think he's as NFL ready as I initially was hoping for. Because, there are times with his tackling, it's not as sure as some people say, but he is a good tackler. The biggest thing for me is that you're not getting a guy that, and this is a knock on him, by the way, you're not getting a guy that is going to shoot a gap and be an absolute terror in the backfield. And that's one thing I was really loving about a guy like, Baron Browning, who was there that they passed on. Yeah, exactly. And I have him and Traven Howard starting. I feel like I'm almost like, it feels like betrayal because I've been a huge Troy Reeder fan, and I still feel like Troy Reeder is going to be used. I just feel like those are probably the two guys that they'll go with, and I've just it doesn't matter what I want. I feel like those are the two guys they're going to go with, so I'm not going to really, work too much into that. I know Micah Kaiser, literally cannot stand me whatsoever. I posted the tweet. I don't know if you saw. I projected all the starters, and he liked it. He does it all the time, because I wasn't a fan of them moving on from Corey Littleton. A lot of people know he's my favorite player. Yeah. And they move on from him. And I said, Micah Kaiser didn't play all of last year. How are you just going to assume that a guy that didn't play all of last year has had a myriad of injuries, played the entire, his entire college career at Virginia with a knee brace, which isn't a good thing, by the way. It means he's had injuries and such.
Yeah.
you're going to just assume he can take over a role that has just been huge. I mean, Littleton was arguably the third best defensive player on the team. So
top 5 linebacker sometimes.
Yeah. So like he commented and it was just like, yeah, Littleton's a dog. Love Littleton, but like, you're sleeping on me, and like,
Oh, he actually commented. Let's go.
Oh yeah, he went at me. So yeah, that's funny, and he clearly hasn't forgotten about it because he likes those things. But I mean, I'd say, and no disrespect to him, but I just think Troy Reader's done a better job. UDFA from Delaware comes in. I mean, he filled in for you twice. Mainly for Traven, last year. But I mean, he started 16 games. He had 3 sacks against Washington. Mm-hmm. I think he's shown the ability to get better each year. I mean, the biggest knock on him was coverage. And now if you hate on him because of coverage, I just think you're being lazy and not actually evaluating him as a linebacker, because he's gotten better in every level of his game. And the Rams finding those guys, big bang for the Bucs. So, that he's been a huge addition for them, a UDFA that they've brought in, they've developed, and he could start. And honestly, if he starts over Ernest and they have Ernest as a rotational guy and then they have Traven, that's great. Traven needs to start. That athleticism is huge. But another guy I want to throw out, it's not Kenny Young, and I really like Christian Roseboom, but it's not him. I actually just mentioned him. So basically what's going on is that, and I don't know if you can attest this or not, I know people have been telling me this, is that Jake Gervais, that's actually how you say his name. I can't believe I finally got it right. Jake Gervais from Iowa, who's like the 2019 UDFA. He's still young. He's like 24 years old.
Yeah.
He signed back with the Rams, futures deal. He's played with the Rams. He's played on their defense. Jake Gervais, the safety, is actually being transferred to linebacker, from what I heard, from what people are saying. They saw in the practice that he was working with the linebackers. You look at like the pictures that he's put up. He's in a line with, a bunch of 50 jerseys. So that tells me linebackers. If they're using Jake Gervais at linebacker, that is utterly terrifying if he can play that position, because he is an athletic freak. And I'm going to pull up my tweet. I don't know where it is, but I'm going to try and find it real quick, because I found, and I know athleticism isn't everything, but Gervais can play. I mean, there's a reason the Rams had him playing defense. I mean, he can play. And the thing about Gervais that I found, here it is. And by the way, shout out to Ramzilla on Twitter. He's the first one that told me this on my YouTube.
Oh, yeah, I was sitting right next to him. Ramzilla.
So you saw it too.
Yeah,
number 39. Yeah. Or whatever he's wearing now. I don't know if he's wearing 39. But Gervais had he measured in, this is his RAS score, according to the relative athletic score. And Kent Lee Platt, that's the guy who does it. So shout out to him. Jake Gervais, free safety, Iowa. He had a 9.92 RAS score in 2019. He measured in at 6 feet 210. So that's a decent size for linebacker. I mean, I don't need a guy to be super tall, and I don't need him to be super, built, but 210 is fine. He could put on 10 pounds, whatever. He ran a 4.48. He had a 1.47 10-yard split, which is just insanity. That is nuts for a linebacker. He had a 37.5-inch vertical. His shuttle is 3.89, which is actually the 99th percentile for safeties.
Crazy.
Yeah. And his 3 cone is 6.76, which is the 90th percentile for safeties. But I also, and you actually have it up here right now.
I found
it. Congrats. I can't believe I found it. Devin White. So I went through, I took 3 ultra athletic linebackers, guys that we call new age linebackers in the NFL, or at least I do. Guys, true sideline to sideline linebackers. Not like, one play he went sideline to sideline. No, like consistently. Devin White is one of the staples in this league that people just look at ultra athletic. And when you look at him, 6 feet 237, he ran a 4.42. He had a 1.56 10-yard split, which is a 96th percentile of linebackers.
Yeah.
Remember what I just said. 1.47 at his pro day for Jake Gervais.
Mhm.
So regardless if any of this is even like 100% accurate, right? Regardless, he's at least comparable to Devin White. He's at least comparable.
Draft.
Yeah, he's at least comparable to Devin Bush. And he's at least comparable to Bobby Wagner.
Whew, my favorite back in the game.
Yeah. I mean, Bobby Wagner's 10-yard split, 1.57. Devin Bush, 1.53. Devin White, 1.56. He had a 1.47 10-yard split, which is the most important thing, I think, when you're talking about the short area burst, which is what you really want. You want a linebacker that can move in short areas and shoot. And this is somebody that played free safety, so he has the ability to do that. You know, you go back, you watch his Iowa tape. I mean, he's not afraid to stick his face in the fan. Like, he will go and make that play. So Gervais, to me, is not necessarily a guaranteed starter. But he's somebody in preseason that could work his way into being the next man up. Yeah. So if there is an injury, like as much as I love Travon Howard, the dude is always hurt.
Yeah.
If there is an injury to Howard, he fits the bill more than anybody to replace him as that sideline to sideline, rangy guy that has a safety background. I love it because I actually totally ruled him out. Because if he was playing safety, it's such a deep safety group.
Yeah.
But at linebacker, man, he's in the game. I want to point that out. He is in the game. If he can actually, if he can withstand transferring to a new position, he's in the game. And they wouldn't have done that if they didn't see value in him. So at the very least, if he stays in the building on the practice squad, that's a win. But I think he can make the 53-man roster. Depending on what happens here. But that's a guy. Training camp, preseason, watch out for Jake Gervais.
I love that you brought him up because he's a guy I've been watching too. And I appreciated all year last year with Brandon Staley, and then now obviously Raheem Morris, who's going to take a lot of the concepts, obviously make them his own. But versatility is so key in this defense. You got to be versatile. You don't want to be pigeonholed to a specific type of player. And so the fact that they're moving a guy that's played safety, but he has a big enough frame that can play linebacker. It's like, we just want the best players on the field. We don't care if you're a typical inside linebacker, a 3-4 guy, 4-3 guy. Like, we want the best athletes on the field that can be cerebral enough to learn the defense we want to run. And we're going to move. I mean, that's why Jalen Ramsey said he played like 6 different positions last year, essentially being money, star, all over, slot guy. And they'll use different safety sets and all this. So I love that player. And I think it'll be interesting to see if it is Ernest Jones and Howard start, how often he can be in that rotation. Because you don't move a guy unless you think he's going to make the roster. Like, or unless he's like, I need to do anything I can to make the roster. One or the other.
That was my thinking.
Yeah. You're doing something to be like, we need this guy on our team one way, if, ands, or buts. Let's make it happen. We're too deep at safety. Can we move him over here and make it happen? So that being said, I think, would you say then, because you're not keeping 5 or 6 inside backers, Mike and
you might. It really depends, because you could classify them as like chess pieces. So you can say, well, he could also play safety, and that would be your argument. So when all these guys get together, all these position coaches get together, and they're trying to decide who the hell is going to make this roster, they're going to sit down, and Gervais has already spent time on this special teams unit. So if he gets in, with Joe DeCamillis, he's going to sit there and be like, he can help in special teams. We have him at linebacker now. He's had experience with the Rams in 2019. He played on that defense. He was in the secondary. So he offers 3 different pieces to help us out. And that's why, he should make the roster over, say, a Paris Ford, who's not as athletic, anywhere near as athletic, is athletically probably deficient, if you ask me, and why he was UDFA. But he's got some strong, football IQ. He's a hard-hitting safety, but he doesn't offer that linebacker sideline to sideline ability. Maybe special teams, but that's my argument why somebody like Gervais could beat him over, Paris Ford or, any of those safeties. I mean, J.R. Reed, Juju Hughes, and then you just classify him as a safety linebacker like Mark Barron, and then you're like, all right, well, we'll keep an extra safety or linebacker either way. And we'll, sacrifice Raymond Calais or Funk at running back, because we really feel like this is a guy that offers more upside than either of those guys. And to me, Jake Gervais is sitting here at what, 24, 25 years old.
Yeah.
And I mean, you have to feel good about what you have in him because he's already played for you on defense. He's already gone through he's gone through 3 different defensive coordinators, I believe, because 2019 was Phillips, 2020 was Staley, and now he's with his third.
Yeah.
And I just think that athleticism is very rare. It's not rare for safety. Okay. It's very good for safety. It's a 9.92 as a safety, but as a linebacker, that's like 98, 99 percentile.
Yeah.
You got to try and make something happen, which they're doing. I don't know how I didn't see this sooner because, I mean, I really liked him. Blaine loved him. Like, straight up, he's going to make the roster. No doubt about it. But when you have a guy like that who's, by all accounts, very likable, very likable, a coach's, type of guy who, he learns. He's not like a flashy guy either. He's going to go and he's going to do his job. I think as long as he buys in, man, he can make this team, and maybe down the line he could be that freaky, come out of nowhere starter if, everything goes to, hell in a handbasket. I mean, they're all these guys have suffered injuries except for Troy Reeder. Kenny Young, I think, even had an injury. Kenny Young, it's funny because when they got him, it felt like he was that big name, not huge name, but big enough name to start. And now I don't even know if he makes the roster.
Yeah. Well, that was the last question I was going to ask before we move on to the last point.
Yeah.
If Gervais makes the roster, I think as we're talking through it, I think that's very likely. That's why he's moving in this hybrid role. So you have Jones, you have Howard, you have Gervais, and then is there a realistic shot that Micah Kiser, Kenny Young, and Troy Reeder all still make the roster, or is one of them probably guaranteed out?
This is going to come as a shock to people, but the only one of the 3 that you mentioned that's a lock is Troy Reeder. That's it. Like Micah Kiser, you could argue, the team is going to obviously want to keep, but the injuries, that's another thing that's going to be weighed in. Can we rely on this guy? Because say, you cut a Christian Roseboom who seems like he's on the cusp of being there, right? They like him.
Yeah.
If you cut him, you're not guaranteed to get him on the practice squad again. You're just not. And so they need to make that decision. Do we roll with Kiser, who's not even a guarantee to be on the roster because of all these injuries that he's had? Can we can we trust that?
Yeah.
And also roll the dice on not getting back a guy that we feel we've developed and we are developing in Christian Roseboom, who we feel maybe could even play. Are we going to just let him go? Because I can tell you right now, the Rams, they may steal those guys, but those guys also get stolen from the Rams. And I'll tell you, Darius Williams is a perfect example of why, Baltimore didn't fall off a cliff because of it. But look, they could have Darius Williams right now with Marlon Humphrey. You know what I mean? And maybe Marcus. I don't know if they would have traded for Marcus Peters. It's crazy to me that, you could have a guy already on your roster that's ready to contribute, maybe even be a perennial Pro Bowler, and you could just make the mistake of trying to do too much and cut him to keep a guy who has been around longer.
Yeah.
I mean, cutting John Franklin Myers to keep Tanzel Smart is one of the worst moves the Rams have done in the McSnead era.
Yeah.
So,
you're absolutely right. He had a good year with the Jets last year.
Yeah. And like his pressure rating was in the top 5 interior defensive linemen. I mean, it also goes to show you why they haven't made a ton of horrible moves. If that's one of the worst, then that means they haven't made a ton of, I know Micah Kiser, if he hears this, is going to be like, oh, here he is hating on me again. But I'd say the same thing about Kenny Young, and I've never had any issue with Kenny Young. I don't have an issue with Micah Kiser, but like if Kenny Young, is on the outside looking in, like I'm picking Gervais over him. He's younger. He offers that, flexibility to play safety, linebacker. He's more athletic. See, Kenny Young comes off as being, a more athletic guy than what you had, but now you have Gervais playing linebacker. It changes the game. Yeah. And especially when he's doing all those same drills, and if he's moving quicker, coaches are going to pick up on that and be like, wait a minute, we have something here. So I cannot wait to see the evolution of him in training camp and preseason, because I mean, we've seen it before, guys that have just randomly blown up in preseason. Some don't ever have really any career, but then some actually make a career out of it. And one of those guys, Shaquille Barrett with the Broncos, he ended up going on to become one of the best pass rushers in football. So it's not crazy to assume that a UDFA can go into preseason, ball out, and become a starter.
Oh, well, Corey Littleton, perfect example right there.
I know. Corey Littleton. And the great thing about him, the most underrated aspect of Corey Littleton's ascension, is the fact that was the year they drafted a quarterback number 1 overall. That's the first thing. So Corey Littleton was the rookie of the year in a year where they drafted somebody number 1 overall for their team.
So,
1. 2, Littleton, because of the Pac-12 thing, like, he had to sit out all of OTAs. So he was behind as a UDFA on a loaded roster. And you know what I mean? So, I mean, I think it's pretty crazy what Littleton was able to do. And not loaded. I mean, you know, they did go 4-12, but the defense wise, they had a lot of talent there.
Ogletree then, and they had some good backers.
So, you know, and he was a guy, I mean, the reason he didn't get drafted is because, like Peterson said, he had no role. He was just he was a chess piece. Like he was honestly a better pass rusher than he was a linebacker, but then he like honestly bought into the Rams, became a linebacker. I mean, he could have played safety, he could play linebacker, he could have played edge. Like, he could have done that all, but he decided to play linebacker because they told him to. And I mean, he bought in. And, you know, I think, I'm not saying Gervais is going to be the greatest linebacker ever, but he offers intriguing upside athletically, you know, mentally. You know, you're not looking at a guy that like isn't mentally there. Like, he's clearly capable. He went to Iowa, and I love like Iowa like resembles like football player to me. Like, I don't know, like I'll never forget interviewing George Kittle and him telling me like, if you can't block, you can't play at Iowa. Like, just and it was that simple to me. It was just like, if you can't play football, you can't play at Iowa. Like, if you can't do the little things. So that's their nature. And you know, I feel like Gervais knows that. And I mean, I don't know if he was truly a captain, but I know they looked at him as such.
Yeah, it was him and like Josie Jewell on that defense. They were the like the centerpieces of that defense for sure. So
exactly,
it's gonna be fun to watch, man. Are you gonna make it out for training camp at all out here out west?
No, I have some stuff going on that, you know, my life is kind of up in the air right now. You know, a lot of stuff going on, a lot of moving pieces. You know, the gears are turning. Obviously, want to go full-time YouTuber, but that's not happening this year, no matter what. No, it's not me quitting on my goal. It's just I'm being realistic here. So
it's gonna be realistic. You never know.
But I'd love to go to a game at SoFi. It's just right now very up in the air. I need to get out of New York because I've been here since last January when I was at the Senior Bowl. So I'm losing my mind slowly. But I am going to see the Rams Giants, and last time I did that at the stadium, the Rams won 51-17, and I met pretty much everybody on the Rams except for, I think, Andrew Whitworth and Aaron Donald. Like, it was crazy. So
wow,
it was a fun time, and just you know, it's such a far cry from the year prior when I saw them against the Jets, and it was like the worst game of all time. It was like 9-3, Bryce Petty versus Case Keenum, and then it was that same MetLife Stadium, and then the next year I go and I see them win 51-17. All these Giants fans in the stands were wearing Sam Darnold Giants jerseys. It's hilarious, like looking back on it, because they thought Sam Darnold was going number 1. It's just still funny to look back at that. The 3rd and 33 Robert Woods screen.
That
happened right out in front of me. We were sitting in the end zone. This is crazy. Just crazy.
I love it. That's great, dude. Well, if you make it out here west, you always got to, I know you know a lot of people out here, but you got a spot to stay. We'll definitely have to link up.
Appreciate that, man.
Tailgate or whatever, and you know, just talk more Rams. So I appreciate you, dude, for jumping on. Keep up all the great work you're doing. Downtown Rams, the Jake Ellenbogen YouTube channel, Downtown Rams podcast, all that. What's I'm drawing a blank right now. Your Twitter handle, just so make sure to plug that. What's the Twitter handle?
Yeah, it's at JK Bogan.
Okay. JK
so Bogan. Easy enough. I'm pretty much everywhere at this point. YouTube, Twitch, JK Bogan 15, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. I rarely even use it, but yeah, I'm pretty much everywhere. DowntownRams.com is where you can find our Rams content. We're gearing up, man. We got a whole new a cast there. Blaine is basically at the forefront of it. We just brought on a bunch of people that we're really excited about. Our fantasy football area is going to start pumping out content, and on top of that, we have a really good fantasy, or not fantasy, NFL draft manager who we just brought on. So we're really excited for all that, and appreciate you having me on, man.
Yeah,
it's
dude.
been fun.
Well, congrats. Keep it up. We'll definitely be collabing a lot more in the future.
Absolutely.
My goal is, throughout the season, having kind of the varying beat writers podcasters on at least once a month. So we just all are kind of in this inner circle, and we all are keeping close knit, but also just putting out great content for all the Rams fans out there. So thank you, brother. I appreciate you. Enjoy the rest. Beginning of the week. So enjoy the rest. I didn't even ask you, how's your 4th? You have a good 4th of July?
Oh yeah. I went and saw my dad, actually, his band headlined at our casino here.
I saw you post that. Hell yeah.
It was pretty dope.
Yeah. What does he play?
So he's the drummer. I mean, he can play all the he can play all the instruments, but he loves playing drums. So
that's awesome. Yeah. Well, good stuff, dude. Well, I'm glad you had fun. But yeah, we'll be in touch, dude. I appreciate you jumping on the LA Football Podcast. Make sure everyone to check him out for some awesome Rams content. Always active on Twitter. One of the Dons on Twitter, I like to say. We got a few good Rams follows, and Jake is one of the best out there. So make sure to check him out. And yeah, dude, take care. We'll talk to you soon. Okay.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, Ryan.
All right. Big thanks to Jake Ellenbogen. Always fun getting him on the show. Wealth of knowledge. Huge Rams guy. Obviously, we said it throughout the interview. Make sure to check him out. If you follow the show, I'm sure most of you have probably heard of him. He's pretty affluent in the Rams Twitter community. So check him out. Let me know what you guys think. Love to hear what you guys think about Rams training camp coming up and your kind of anticipation for what to expect. Hit me up on Twitter at Ryan Dyrud, LAFB. Main account at LAFB Network. I'll respond to any of those. Like I said, follow us on YouTube, LAFB Network, the website, LAFBnetwork.com. It's pretty easy to find us. And you can see it here if you're watching on YouTube already. We're plastered all over as we continue to grow. Appreciate you so much for tuning in. Later in the week, I'm going to be joined by Dan Wade from Locked On Chargers, and we're going to talk about expectations for Chargers training camp. So don't worry, Chargers fans. We'll get that coming back at you later in the week if you stuck through this episode, just to learn some stuff about your crosstown rival. So thank you all for tuning in. This is the LA Football Podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Dyrud. Appreciate you all. We got a lot of great stuff coming. So make sure to keep tuning back in. I'm going to get back on a better schedule here. So every Tuesday and Friday, we'll be dropping episodes. I know it's been crazy the last month. I've been traveling a lot. But yeah, we'll get back on every Tuesday and Friday for the time being will be when episodes will drop. So LA Football Podcast, subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts, wherever you watch on YouTube. Have a great week. Talk to you guys all in a few days.